So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, recorded live on blogtalkradio.com on January 31st, 2008. Bret Carr made a movie. Lots of people make movies these days. Every idiot with a digital camcorder thinks he is Scorsese, Tarantino, or Apatow. But Carr approached his first feature film, RevoLOUtion, a little differently. He landed Quinn Redeker, the man behind The Deer Hunter, to write his screenplay. Rocky composer Bill Conti created the title song. Paul Michael Glaser, best known as Detective Starsky from the classic TV series Starsky and Hutch, is a producer. Carr even convinced Burt Young, who played Sylvester Stallone's brother-in-law in the Rocky films, to be himself in RevoLOUtion. But who to play Lou Benedetti, the stuttering, somewhat brain-damaged, yet ultimately inspirational star of the film? That would be Carr himself, who also produced and directed RevoLOUtion. And wait until you hear about his unusual ideas about marketing. Bret, welcome to Mr. Media.
Hey, Bob, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Although it sounds like I'm on speaker, but you have that power over me, so it's okay.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, it was not intended for you to sound like you're on speaker, but my Mac is got a mind of its own today, so we're just going to have to work with it, I think.
No, I feel like I'm on the phone with a mogul, so I'm happy.
Mr. Mogul, that would be my new identity.
And I am on the phone with a mogul. Who's more important than the bloggers? I think we'll get into that later in the interview, right?
That'll be good. Well, let's start. Bret, why would anyone want to make a movie?
Probably if they grew up with a narcissistic alcoholic and got no attention as a kid, they might be driven to some kind of public affirmation.
Are you telling us something about yourself you'd like to share?
I'm not talking about myself, Bob.
and Bret, why this particular film?
Well, yeah. So I grew up in a kind of a pill popping, wild swinging 1970s alcoholic house with some pretty extreme characters because they had a lot of money, so everything was exponentiated. And I had some deep abandonment issues, when I started hitting about 28, 29. It was like the patterns were just, I kept seeing that I was repeating all of my childhood relationships with my mom and my romances. And it was kind of, I think somebody else might categorize it, bipolar or something like that. And one day, a regressionist knocked me back, not even a licensed one. Somebody knocked me back to when I was a little kid, and they made me go through a scenario over and over and over again when my mother had the janitor pour Ajax on a bird, and it was a whole story. But I had just gotten out of jail, and after about 2 hours of crying it out, it was a scene when I was 3. I was laughing at it, and I was out of this 6-month depression. And I was like, wow, if I could cathartic, cry out, burn out the circuitry for every moment like this, then, my moods wouldn't be re-stimulated by the conflicts that arise in daily life. And so I spent about 200 hours doing that. And I was like, if we could translate this into a rite of passage in a story, because I was a filmmaker and I'd grown up making films, we would have, an incredibly important picture that would heal a lot of lives. So I didn't know who else to go to really but Quinn, because if you look at The Deer Hunter, the movie liberated an entire generation of Vietnam vets, and I think it was a singularly unique film, and it was also a rite of passage movie that was structured so uniquely so that by the time, you got done seeing those Russian roulette scenes and then see De Niro decide not to shoot the deer at the end of the movie, I mean, I've been with Quinn when vets have come up to him in tears and saying, your movie saved my life. So I proposed it to him, and he bit.
Well, that must have been pretty satisfying for you to be able to convince Quinn that based on his background, one of your ideas would be appropriate for a film.
It's I mean, I could go into hours on that subject because he's just the most brilliant writer, and he sold 9 pictures after The Deer Hunter. I mean, each one was a high-level studio screenplay sale, and but nothing had been made, because they were all visionary. And The Deer Hunter itself went through 30 drafts and almost never got made. But that's this is the same story you hear over and over and over again. The script that got passed on by everybody finally finds somebody that wants to take a risk and not make, another formulaic film.
Now, how did your story, your personal story, convert to the Lou Benedetti story?
Well, I mean, listen, I wasn't a stuttering boxer, but I was definitely somebody with anger that kept repeating things in my life. So for all intents and purposes, I was an angry stutterer, metaphorically. And Lou thought that his problems were, due to his mouth. His stutter was like a physiological problem. And, of course, I had no idea until I was 28 that, every single, bit of trouble that I manifested in my life, was a result of patterning from childhood. And so, they were completely resonant. It's a complete autobiography. And then, Lou learns to cathart his past, and I think in a way that's never really been seen before, at least according to our good reviews and bad reviews. People were like, the one climactic scene is just, unbelievable, which, of course, was somewhat similar to the Russian roulette scene, which is why, I think Quinn got what I was going for.
Now, Lou, in the movie, even with the connection that you have to the character, personal connection, still could not have been that easy to play. You obviously, anyone listening can tell that you are not a stutterer. I don't know if you were a boxer. You pulled that off pretty well in the film.
Oh, that was a lot of takes, Bob. But in response to that, did you have more to the question? Because I could.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the boxing was a lot of takes, but the stuttering, actually, I did shoot. This film probably cost, in cash for the physical production, $100,000, $120,000, and then there was probably, because it took, 10 years to shoot, and we did it when we had money, there were, carrying costs of like rent, which, we were hustling up the money and editing. So, it probably came in at a few $100,000. And before this movie existed, in about 6 days, I went out and shot an experiment with some friends of mine, and because it was like, I've never starred in a film before. You want to play a stuttering boxer? I mean, that's these are tough. I mean, there are major movie stars who don't carry it in a film that does well. And so we went out and we shot a feature on 16 millimeter film in about 6 days, and I took a look at it. This is in 96, 97, and it was really not good. The performance was, I had to edit around it, and so I trashed that movie. I'm picking up an echo all of a sudden. Are you getting that?
I'm trying to eliminate it. Keep going. I'm working on it.
I'm wondering if it's my phone.
No, it's the system here.
Oh, okay. It seems like it's gone.
Okay.
Anyway, we trashed that performance. I mean, when I say trashed it, I threw that movie away. To me, it was a sketch. And then I went to see a speech therapist, and I stayed in the character for about a month, which proved great for bill collectors. I remember getting a call from American. My credit's great now, by the way, in case anybody's listening. But I got a call back then from American Express, and I said, well, and the guy goes, don't, and he went from, where the hell is Bret Carr, to, okay, don't worry about it.
It sounds like something you would pick up watching the old Roseanne Barr show, something she would have tried to avoid the bill collectors.
Yeah, or Monk, right.
Or Monk, yeah.
So that was, yeah, I don't know if I answered the question, but.
That's all right. It's hard to imagine 10 years with one film. Now, you had to be working on other things at the same time.
Well, I think I had a Jesus complex or something. I'm, the film obviously has only been seen by a few thousand people, maybe a little more since it went online. But I made the mistake that you just can't market a film. I mean, listen, even if the film won Sundance and Cannes, this film would only be in, a few U.S. theaters, and relatively few people would see it. I mean, it might go to, 100,000 people or 200,000 people instead of a few thousand people. So in any case, it's almost tragic for an artist that, has an incredible piece of work. Like, I mean, I can cite so many examples. There's Bruce Joel Rubin, who wrote My Life with Michael Keaton and Nicole Kidman. This is one of the most powerful, life-changing films I've ever seen in my life. And, nobody's ever heard of it. And so the mistake is that movies are made to be made for $100 million, despite your Billy Bob Thornton interview, which I loved, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And I mean, really loved. It was so authentic. And anyway, yeah, movies are made to be made on a big budget and marketed with a big budget and reach many, many people. And that's why, the Spielbergs of the world are people that, and Rob Reiners of the world are people that, change lives. Because where else are you going to get 2 hours of progressive thought from a mentor, from his heart, sitting down with you and saying, I've seen the world, and here's what's touched me.
Right.
So I think I went on a tangent there because I'm working on it.
That's all right.
So 10 years, yeah. So I was, I was like an autistic, psychopath. That I was literally couch hopping and hustling money and hibernating and editing, and I thought, when this film breaks, and in one way, probably could have spent that 10 years building a muscle by directing movie after movie and writing, and so I was completely wrong. I might have lost 10 years of a career, but on the other hand, the film has allowed me the confidence to like meet with Rob Reiner 2 days ago about my new film, which of course is a $50 million picture, and is tackling Eastern philosophy in a big sci-fi piece, about preparing for death, and and his bucket list, by the way, made me cry, and it's an incredible film. But so when we're done with the interview, I want the intro to Billy Bob, because I heard him talking about preparing for death as a topic of his last album, and so that's where 10 years went. Wow.
And over that period of time, and what you were saying about couch hopping and stuff, you lose a lot of friends due to that kind of behavior and attitude, or did they stick with you?
That's a great question. Notice the long pause. I think that interim. Did I lose a lot of friends? I can't really even think. I think I lost two friends. One was a girlfriend who's now a best friend, and she was just tired of it. She needed some stability. And the other one I might have lost anyway, but he's one of the world's biggest directors, and he's a guy that continually badgered me to stop pursuing this film, and now he's so indulged by Hollywood that I think some people get into that "what makes Sammy run" syndrome, and once they get up the ladder, they're afraid to associate with people below it because they might hit a downward spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And those were two circumstances. Otherwise, I think it built a lot of long-term, incredible relationships that, you know, had a huge degree of respect for what I'm doing, and now I can finally, you know, go out to dinner with them once in a while because all my money is not getting thrown into, you know, reshooting a movie. And it also resulted in me meeting a lot of people in Hollywood from just a street fashion level, like Billy Bob. I stalked him outside of the Armageddon, one of the Armageddon test screenings.
Right.
And I was like, I think I would call him Mr. Thornton or Billy Bob, probably Billy Bob. I was like, listen, I'm doing this, you know, little film, and I need somebody to play the father. And the film is about a guy that learns to stop repeating the dramas of his childhood. And he's, wow, I love that. That's the kind of film that I'd like to make. I mean, this Armageddon thing, this is just, you know, let me take a look at this movie. And he took the tape from me, you know, right in the lobby of the theater. I was never able to get back in touch with him, but, you know, c'est la vie. I'll run it.
It's an interesting town you live in where that's, you know, that happens, and even though you didn't get back with him, it still makes a good story, but, you know, the idea that you're going to walk up to the guy and hand him the tape and, you know, he may or may not be, you know, looking at it. That's not happening in Des Moines.
Well, L.A. is so exciting. I mean, listen, everybody's got a dream, and, you know, I mean, I've done this with, you know, so many. I've done it with Spielberg. I used to paint on the street. He visited me. I mean, he visited me because he was looking for me. He, like, you know, appeared one day when I literally prayed for him to appear because I was like, okay, I'm ready to pitch Spielberg. And he showed up a few hours later. It was Memorial Day weekend, and he went to see Mission Impossible with his family. And was very attentive. He let Kate and the kids go upstairs, and he stayed with me and listened to the story. And it was like, it's too small for me, but, you know, show me when you're done. And of course, now I'm looking. You know, I'm gonna get him again to, you know, tell him that my new film. But that's how I got Paul Michael Glaser. I found him outside the Broadway Deli on 3rd Street, and I had, you know, I always carry the movie with me, and I gave it to him, and he goes, well, you know, kid, you could be carrying that thing around for the rest of your life, but, you know, let me see. And he called me back a few hours later and gave me 5 pages of notes that I proceeded to take 2 years to reshoot.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's one thing, Bret, it's one thing to, you know, be almost a stalker of people, but it's another when they actually follow up with you and are interested and take that personal interest in what you're doing, isn't it?
You know, I didn't have a father growing up, and a lot of my, I guess, self-worth was built from just being creative. So, to me, it's you know, a fun game in L.A. and still is. I mean, like the Rob Reiner meeting the other day, it was like, wow, I could handle myself in a room without being nervous and then shoot the shit with one of the greatest artists, you know, in modern history, a guy that runs a studio and has touched people for the last 30 years. In the you know, in the tens of millions.
Well, Bret, what's the status of RevoLOUtion now?
RevoLOUtion is something that, even though we doubled box office averages, you know, meaning we grossed 5,000 a screen when I rented 2 theaters instead of 2,500, and that was with people paying after the show based on what they felt it was worth. We still couldn't get a distributor. And I was just like, this is just, am I allowed to curse on the radio?
Absolutely. Be my guest.
This is just fucking absolute bullshit. And, but you know, it's like, you know, the economy services the big guy and not the long tail. So I was like, what can we, I mean, I proved the film.
All right. Well, I'm sure Bret will be back. I hope we've lost Bret's call. I'm gonna just riff for a moment or two. The thing about RevoLOUtion, it caught my eye was a lot of things comparing it to Rocky. There's kind of that underdog does well. I think Bret is back just in time.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Where was
Bret?
I?
Okay.
Yeah. But where was I?
Oh boy, you would ask me that, right? I had to start talking to cover you. I don't know.
Okay, I got it. I got your back. I was saying that. What do you do? How do you get out to the masses? I mean, the bottom line is that we all know now that bloggers are responsible for hundreds of millions of page views a day. And I believe they're replacing traditional media because they're giving an authentic voice and creating a relationship with their listeners that can be interactive and therefore is far more fulfilling, than the newspapers that have to sell, death and sex to appeal to the lowest common denominator, people that are, having trouble in their own lives. And I believe bloggers may be responsible for raising the emotional and intelligence quotient level of the world, to escaping from the MTV generation. People are actually reading. So, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So while I'm giving this diatribe, the bottom line is, I was like, let's just give the movie away for free. I mean, I'm only using it as a calling card in Hollywood anyway, and it was our success in the theater, and people actually. They stepped up and they paid. That was in a theatrical environment. I'm not certain we're getting the same ratio online, but thousands of people are watching it online, and the donations are trickling in. And I think as probably the bandwidth gets better, the donations may increase. But really, the bottom line is I didn't make this movie for money. I made it because. This is the story, the mythology, the rite of passage contained in RevoLOUtion changed my life, and so few people are exposed to a rite of passage in this modern society that having it embedded in the movie, the more people that watch it, I know that we're making a contribution because we get the letters. I quit my job. For the first time I was able to walk away from my husband. Et cetera, et cetera. So you can go see the movie for free. It's streaming through Google Video at RevoLOUtionMovie.com. You can spell revolution wrong and still get there. RevoLOUtionMovie.com, not movies. I'm just going to say it one more time, RevoLOUtionMovie.com, because I don't think you put it on your site.
Fred,
yes, sir.
Let me interrupt you for a second. We have a call. I haven't even had a chance to give out the phone number with the technical issues. So let me see who we've got on the line that's got a question.
Sure.
Hi, do you have a question for Bret Carr?
Hi, yeah, it's Steve Holton. I'm sorry I joined your show a little late, but what I have been listening to has been fascinating, and I'm going to go to that site and look at this movie. Bret, I was just curious. I was looking up, trying to find this movie in IMDb. I'm not sure if you're aware of that site or not. It's sort of a good repository of TV shows and movies.
Yeah, no, I totally know it.
Yeah, I couldn't find it listed, or maybe I'm looking at it in the wrong way.
Well, you have to spell RevoLOUtion. We titled it by the character name. It's RevoLOU, L-O-Ution.
Ah, okay.
As opposed to the traditional spelling of the word.
Okay, I'll give that a try and see what I can find. Yeah, because it sounds like you've had quite a time trying to. There it is. I found it. Yeah, it sounds like you're having quite a time getting this movie out or getting awareness of it, and I can appreciate it. There's a lot of good stories, a lot of good, whether we're talking about books or movies, that just for whatever reason can't seem to break that threshold and get public awareness, even when it is, really a solid story. And I wish you the best of luck with it.
Oh, thank you so very much. It's also available for a higher quality stream at RevoLOU, AREYOULOU.com. It costs like $4.95 and is served through the company that brought you The Secret.
Okay.
So you can watch it DVD quality online. Of course, you can buy a DVD for $20, or you can watch it free on Google Video.
Excellent. I'll do that, and I'll try and listen to the archive of this show later, just to sort of pick up on some of the early stuff that I missed. But once again, best of luck. It sounds like a fascinating story.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for calling, Steve. Appreciate it. If we've got anyone else that's interested in talking to Bret before we wrap up in a little bit, the number is 646-595-31 and I'll remind you that we are live on January 31st, 2008. If you hear this at a later date, don't call. And of course, if you would consider marking Mr. Media as a favorite on Blog Talk Radio, or if you're listening on iTunes, please consider giving us a rating on there. So, Bret, yes, RevoLOUtion. It's now your calling card. You're not working as I guess it sounds like you're past the point of trying to get a distributor at this point.
Well, I partnered up with our friend Larry Jenkin, the publisher of Blogger and Podcaster magazine, who's the most influential organizer of bloggers and podcasters in the world.
Right.
And also, he is the USA Today newspaper's publisher for Blogger and Podcaster Guide, which is the TV guide for bloggers and podcasters. And Larry saw the power of the film and talks about it every month and gives it ad space in his magazine and in USA Today. And he came up with the great idea to give everybody who blogs and podcasts about it a producer credit in the movie. And so that's a unique marketing angle that we're, allowing to proliferate on our site at RevoLoutionMovie.com. And I think it's a great one because producers are only people that get the movie financed and seen. So why not the people who are really investing in it and spending time talking about it like you? Because you're now a producer.
So, what other kind of things?
At your discretion, of course. I don't want you to be liable for,
Now, what other kind of things did you do that an indie producer would have to do to get noticed that a major studio would not have had to do?
Well, major studios come up with things like shark attacks off in Nantucket and sex tapes, and so they're far more advanced than I am. But some of the things that I've done, I directed a short film called Passion of the Heist that cost me $20 and spoofed me as a Jew auditioning for Mel Gibson, and it made the front page of the Hollywood Reporter and me Filmmaker of the Month in between Oliver Stone and Irwin Winkler. And I auditioned in the character of Lou Benedetti, who we for the day made Jewish instead of Italian, but that got a lot of attention. And then I did another short for $20 called Fahrenheit 6911 with Lou Benedetti in it. That made the front page of the Hollywood Reporter again. This was all before YouTube,
Right.
And then and then I did another short called Gay After Tomorrow with Osama bin Laden being disarmed by Lou Benedetti of his bomb that's going to turn America gay, and that made the Oscar analysis in last year's Hollywood Reporter. I have a journalist who's a fan over there, but so that got us some attention around town. I painted, let people paint me in the middle of the street in Sundance because I used to be a street painter. I remember once Brett Ratner, who directed X-Men 3 and all the Rush Hour movies.
Right.
I think I referred to him before, but he had put his name on the film as an executive producer at one point, and because he wasn't being supportive, I pulled it off, and he shot at my car one day. He went into a rage and started shooting at my car. So I put that anecdote in. He's like my little brother, but he's my little brother with $100 million that's grossed $1 billion, and so I can't control him anymore. But I did put him on page 6 of the New York Post right before X-Men 3 opened up, and so that caused a little bit of a stir because he went crazy. And the president of Fox called him, and but we try to do the right thing, and I would do anything to get RevoLOUtion seen, including producing sex tapes of I don't know who anybody would want to see me screwing, but if anybody has an idea to get RevoLOUtion seen, please email me at the contact button at RevoLoutionMovie.com, and I will definitely read every email.
Okay, folks, you heard it here.
And if I could just plug something, I mean, the reason behind the film was a very, authentic and serious one, in a society where people are medicated and then, explode because they can't process their emotions and, bad things happen. This was my attempt and successful with some people to allow them a process to cathartic their emotions. And there's a lot of people call us after watching the movie, or rather walk up to me at the theater and say, how can I really, apply this afterwards besides sitting down and watching the movie 10 times? And there's a technique called emotional freedom technique. You can Google it, or you can read about it on my site. I think the website is emofree.com, and it's emotional acupuncture, and it's a really powerful. I mean, the story is not really a proselyte. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I had to bounce that call. Anyway, yeah, so check that out. For those of you who are resonating with Bob's interview, on the basis of, this is a healing film, you'll want to check that out. Thanks for letting me plug that, Bob.
Of course. Well, Bret, I want to thank you for joining us on Mr. Media today. Do you want to give out the website again one more time for Lou?
You know how fond I am of that. Yeah, it's the site where you can buy the DVD and stream the movie in DVD quality for $4.95 is RevoLOU, AREYOULOU.com, RevoLOU, and the site kind of more directed towards bloggers and where you can watch the movie for free is RevoLOUtionmovie.com, and you can spell it, RevoLOUtion, you can spell it either way, LOU, or the normal way RevoLOUtion is spelled. So it's RevoLOU.com or RevoLOUtionmovie.com. And thank you so very much for having me on. And,
sure.
And please, will all of Bob's fans pressure him to hook me up with Billy Bob, because he already knows me and likes me. He's just, he probably couldn't put two and two together about how it could, make money and be worthy of his time. But now I got a new picture and I want him in it.
I'm always getting used. Stefan Pastis, the cartoonist, wanted to come on the show because he figured I could hook him up with Cheryl Hines. So, we do what we can.
Oh man, right. You're getting out of control, buddy.
Yeah. Well, listen, Bret, thanks so much for coming on the show, and good luck with the next movie.
No, thank you so much. I look forward to coming on again with Billy Bob.
Okay.
Okay,
right,
buddy.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, for dozens more celebrity and media newsmaker interviews, please surf over to Mr. Media's main site, www.mrmedia.com, where you can listen to my conversations with Billy Bob Thornton, which you just heard about, Cheryl Hines, Milo Ventimiglia, David Fury, and many, many others. You can also read full transcriptions on that site. And please come back again next week for another Fridays with Mr. Media.
Hi, this is Rich Scheidner. And if you've ever wondered what it was like to be a stand-up comedian in the 1980s, I'm going to do you a big favor. Instead of billions of dollars for a time machine, you can just spend $24.95 and buy my new book, Kicking Through the Ashes, My Life as a Stand-Up in the 1980s Comedy Boom. It will save you money and give you thrills. It will take you there. Go to my website, richscheidner.com, go to amazon.com, and buy this book.